Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our March Facebook Live with the Alzheimer's Association Northern California, Northern Nevada chapter. My name is Claire Day, and I'm the Chief Program Officer with the chapter, and I am excited to be joined today by two amazing human beings, Vanessa Sousa, who is our Senior Manager of Community Outreach, and Pam Montana, who is one of our amazing volunteers, advocates, and ambassadors representing people living with Alzheimer's disease and all other dementias. And we are here today just to kind of check in and talk a little bit about our recent release of the facts and figures. But before we do that, we want to acknowledge that, we know this has been a tough time for people. There have been global challenges. And we hope that everybody is staying safe and healthy. We just want to remind you that we are here 24/7, whether it's through our 24/7 helpline, 1-800-272-3900, or through things like our website, alz.org/NorCal. We are here for you. But let's get into talking a little bit about the facts and figures. Now, facts and figures to me is my favorite day of the year. It's something I look forward to, and it's a report that our colleagues at the Alzheimer's Association put together that really takes an in-depth look at the latest national statistics on Alzheimer's prevalence, incidence, mortality, costs of care, and the impact on caregivers. This year's report also includes a section that talks about dementia care workforce, something that we know is really important. And it also highlights the impact, highlighted a little bit the impact of COVID-19 on people living with Alzheimer's and their caregivers. We know that the burden of Alzheimer's on individuals, families, and the workforce continues to grow. And this report really just sort of underscored the need for care, support, and more research. So I want to break down some of the high level stuff, but really what we want to do today is just have a conversation about what it means to live with Alzheimer's disease, what the difference, thinking about mild cognitive impairment versus Alzheimer's disease, how that sort of impacts daily living. And so you're going to get to hear from Vanessa and Pam in just a little bit. But from what we learned, we know that there are 6 million Americans over 65 who are living with Alzheimer's. That number is expected to double by 2050. We're an aging nation. And of course, we know that about 1 in 9 over the age of 65 and 1 in 3 over the age of 85 have Alzheimer's disease. We also saw this kind of highlight, as I mentioned before, about the dementia care workforce. This included specialists, so thinking about people that are on the front lines of diagnosing Alzheimer's disease. This workforce is just not keeping pace to meet future needs. And I think coupled with the sort of total cost of care, it continues to be unsustainable. It's about $321 billion. So if you're interested in learning and reading the entire facts and figures report, you can find that and download it at alz.org/facts. And I'm sure that Michelle is putting that in our comments section. It's a great beach read. We're in the first week of spring, and it really is an informative document. Every year, what I love about the Facts and Figures report is it highlights a special report, something that we sort of take a deeper look at. And this year's looked at mild cognitive impairment and really underscored the first time really examined both the public and primary care physicians' understanding of mild cognitive impairment. Just at a high level, mild cognitive impairment is sort of that point in where you're having cognitive issues that are potentially detected on a diagnostic test, but they're not really interfering with your activities of daily life. As we think about the continuum of memory loss and cognitive loss, we start sort of cognitively unimpaired, and we know that mild cognitive impairment is sort of that first step if you are going to develop cognitive loss. It's sort of that first step that sometimes leads to Alzheimer's disease and sometimes doesn't. Not everyone who has mild cognitive impairment goes on to develop Alzheimer's or dementia, but everybody who has dementia passes through mild cognitive impairment before getting to those sort of mild, moderate, and severe stages of dementia. Mild cognitive impairment is not a normal part of aging, and I think Vanessa and Pam will talk a little bit more about that. And it's really something that we've learned has been, there's a lot still more to raise awareness about people really understanding the difference. What this report really showed us is that Americans' public awareness of mild cognitive impairment is low, but when prompted with a description of it, concern was high. So they're worried about it, right? Because they're understanding that now mild cognitive impairment, once you understand that mild cognitive impairment is not normal aging. A large majority of Americans that were in this survey, 85%, reported that they would want to learn about having Alzheimer's early in its development, yet only 4 in 10 would seek a physician's opinion immediately if they experienced symptoms of mild cognitive impairment. And most would wait or not seek a doctor's care at all. And so this is where we have a lot of work to do in really sort of demystifying cognitive impairment, what it means to live with cognitive impairment, and really understanding the difference between something like mild cognitive impairment or dementia and normal aging. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful Pam and Vanessa, and let's just have a conversation about it. So Vanessa, let's turn it over to you.
Thanks, Claire. And thanks for that introduction. I was so happy to see this special report coming out. I think, like Claire, Facts and Figures Day is one of my favorite days of the year. I just love getting that information. And the second most common question I get asked about Alzheimer's or dementia is, what is MCI? So I'm really happy that you're here with us today, Pam, to talk about your journey and your experience. I'd like you to start off, if you could just introduce yourself to the folks and tell us a little about you.
Sure. We already know my name, Pam Montana. I live in Danville with my husband. We have a large extended family. And I started having symptoms in 2012 when I was working up in Chico, living in Chico. I worked for Intel most of my life, Intel Corporation. I managed a sales organization. And we had some technology preps that were important so that, we could talk to our customers and let them know what the new, fancy processor is going to look like. And initially, I just needed to jot down just like a couple notes, just to kind of spur, or whatever that word is, spark my mind and share it with them. And as time went on, I found out that I needed to literally almost write down word for word what they were saying. And I had no idea what was going on. I thought, oh, I'm getting old, even though I probably was like, maybe 50 at the time, maybe 55, I don't know. But anyway, I was pretty young at the time. And so I didn't really think that much about it. And then, gosh, I don't know, maybe a year or two later, because, life goes on and all that. My husband and I were on vacation on Maui, and we were driving. And I guess, because he's told me, I don't remember this, he told me that I had asked him 3 times where we were going to dinner. He pulled the car over, we talked about it, and I'm like, nope, no idea, I didn't know I did that kind of a thing. And so that started us down the path of trying to figure out what was going on. We never thought Alzheimer's. Nobody has Alzheimer's in my family that I know, and not, of course, my husband wouldn't matter, because anyway, we didn't have it in our family. And so it took a while to get a diagnosis because I'm so verbal, and I had to go to my primary care physician. And he looked at me and said, you don't look like you have Alzheimer's. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to look like? Because I didn't know anything about it. And I know, again, nobody in my family, I didn't really understand what was going on. Thankfully, he referred me to a neurologist in Danville near our house. And she diagnosed me with mild cognitive impairment and asked me to go to a neuropsychologist. And they kind of agreed that was what my diagnosis was then. And then, as time went on, I got connected to UCSF Memory and Aging Center, and they did a longer test and a lot of PET scans and MRIs and all that kind of stuff. And then I guess I was officially diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but I was still in early stage. So I So I'm kind of, have my MCI, but I officially got the Alzheimer's diagnosis. So that's kind of how that happened. And that happened in 2016. And that's when I had to leave my job.
For sharing all of that, Pam. So
Sure.
it was quite a journey for you to go from those first symptoms to getting the diagnosis of MCI. And then for you specifically, they've said that you had MCI due to Alzheimer's disease. So they were able to narrow it down.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's been a while. I mean, I don't even 2016 and are we in 2022? So I can't do the math, but you guys can, all these smart people on the phone. And, I've had some ups and downs, but honestly, now that COVID's over, I feel better than I did, a couple of years ago. Like, I really feel like things have slowed down. And my biggest issues are around short-term memory and kind of repeating a question or something, especially, with my family or my husband or something like that. And then my executive function. So like cutting and pasting, I got some paperwork and they wanted me to, I don't know, like do something on the computer and then print, and I'm like, no. So I had to print it out, I had to handwrite it, and then I send it back. So I have all these, what do you call it, go-betweens or, little tricks or whatever to make things, to keep things, where I can do stuff.
So besides your short-term memory, it's things like multitasking and following steps, right? Like doing multiple steps in a row is harder for you.
Yes. And math. I can't do math. I can't do, I went to lunch with a friend yesterday and I was like, I think you might want to help me just because I don't know, what am I giving him, 20%, 50%, am I putting a zero in the wrong place? But, thankfully I just have so many friends and so much support that everybody is happy to help, as I'm sure, those of you on the phone, if you have somebody with the disease, I'm sure you're happy to help them. And that's really the most important to me, is to be around people that I care about and that care about me. And like my doctor said, I'm doing what makes me happy.
One of the things that we've been really fortunate about at the Alzheimer's Association is that it seems like one of the things that makes you happy is being a part of things with us and volunteering, being a part of the Walk to End Alzheimer's, being a part of support groups and things like that. How did you get connected with the Alzheimer's Association?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think maybe through UCSF, but I don't really know. I also think that I went online and I signed up to be an early stage advisor for the national office because, again, I was just kind of snooping around. And I guess I was pretty excited about it because I filled out the application form twice. And somehow that information got to Judy, our program manager, whatever, in the local chapter. And so my husband and I went in and met with her, and she could tell right away that I was like all in. Like, I want to do all the speeches, I want to do all the walks, I want to, remove the stigma, I want to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's how I got involved. And I was on the local chapter, and then I was on the national chapter for a while. I'm still a national early stage advisor. I think I will be kind of forever until I, fall apart or whatever. So, what I say to people is, getting the diagnosis was difficult, but I knew something was wrong. And so I was really happy to get the diagnosis in some ways. But what it really did was it flip my life around. Instead of working at Intel and doing, working with technology and having the best staff and the best, executives in the world, I have a new job now, raising awareness, raising money, using my voice, blogging, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, my closet is like pretty much all purple. And I walked in, tons of walks. Our first walk was up in Chico. I've spoken at walk events. A couple years after my diagnosis, Bob and my husband and I went to 4 walks in the same year because everybody wanted to participate and support us. So it's really turned out to be quite a blessing, quite frankly. And I've just met so many wonderful people that I just love and can't imagine them not being in my lives. And some of them are on this call right now, including you guys. So you guys are great, and the national office is great, and I'm just super grateful.
And we're really grateful to have you and that we know you too. So my last question for you is, if you had just a piece of advice for someone who is having symptoms of memory loss or other concerns, or maybe someone who's just been diagnosed? What's your advice for them?
Well, I guess my first thing would be to definitely call the 800 number and to talk to the experts there, and just to ask any question that you want. And, I don't know the title of all these folks, but they are very, very intelligent, and nurses, doctors, I don't know, this is all they do, and they are just amazing. And anytime, night or day, you can do that. And so I think that's one thing. And the other thing is, getting a diagnosis isn't like the end of your life. I mean, it's not. I mean, of course, it's a disease that has no cure, but you get to choose how you deal with that, right? You can fall apart, you can stay at home, you can eat cookies all day, you can not exercise, you can not have friends, you can, turn into a, kind of a basket case, or have, depression, which of course isn't a joke. I mean, that's a real disease that needs help too. So I think, again, I'll talk about me, it's just, for me, it was really important to share my story and to get the word out there, and to let people know that this is what Alzheimer's looks like, and that you can live a lovely, lovely life, even if you can't drive, even if you can't cook, and if you can't read, listen to Audible, listen to meditation. I mean, there's just so many ways to do things that our brains kind of can't, whatever it is, process anymore.
Yeah, Pam, I love that you asked that question, Vanessa. Thank you for asking that, because, when we think about the report, that statistic of 85% of the people that were surveyed, right? They all said they would want to learn more, learn about having Alzheimer's early in its development. And yet, when pushed on that about, okay, so what does that look like? 4 in 10 then only said, well, then I'd go to my doctor. So thinking of that from the stigma perspective,
Yeah.
and, you clearly saw the signs that, the repetitive questions, right? The short-term memory. Why should people not be afraid to go to their doctor?
Because it's going to be helpful for them, and knowledge is power. And the more the support you can get, and maybe you start with Aricept, but maybe you need another drug like Namenda or some of the others that I don't remember their names. I mean, I don't think there's any shame in it. I mean, I've always said that, but there is a stigma about it in this country and in this world. And I think it's time to quit, like just quit. You share the facts and figures. How many people are getting diagnosed every 65 seconds. 2/3 are women. I mean, this is the real deal. And, I really would encourage everybody to get the support that they need. And I mean, you can call me, text me, whatever. I talk to people all the time. I'm happy to help. Call the 800 number, get connected with a care person there that can, help you with your emotional stuff. Tell your friends, tell your family. You'll be surprised at how much love and support that you'll get if you kind of put your foot in the water.
Well, and you start to mention about medications, and it leads me to ask you another question, because one of the benefits, of course, of early detection in the early stage is the potential to participate in clinical trials.
Yeah.
I know that's something that you take such pride in. Talk a little bit about why you chose to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, I already said, like, I really want to be the first survivor. And so and I'm a high achiever. So when I found out that there were some clinical trials available in San Francisco at UCSF, I was all in. So my first trial was with Roche Genentech, and it got canceled for lack of efficacy. And I was devastated. I was bawling my brains out because I was doing something. I mean, it's great to raise money for the walk. I mean, it's really great to raise money for the walk because that helps with research. But, that's once a year. And so with some of those other kinds of things and clinical trials, it's really important. And the second one I just finished not that long ago, maybe 6 months ago. So I'm going to do another one whenever I can, whenever it fits.
Yeah, and what I love about clinical trials is it gives you access to a lot more check-ins and
Yes.
testing. You might get access to things like PET scans that aren't readily available to
Yeah.
people in their doctor's offices.
The
It's
MRI.
an extra set of eyes on you, right? To see how you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like I said, I will do it as long as I can, as long as somebody wants to drive me to San Francisco once a month. And I was excited because I decided that every time I went to to UCSF for the infusion, I would always wear a new pair of shoes.
Yeah.
So it turned into be just kind of a fun thing for me. It was, and people really enjoyed it, and they were like, "Let me see your shoes. What are you wearing today?" And so just stuff like that.
Yeah, you've always done such a great job of using your voice to raise awareness, but also to just kind of drive home that need to destigmatize what Alzheimer's looks like. And you said it when you first gave your intro, that your doctor said, "Well, you don't look like you have Alzheimer's."
I know, like, what is that supposed to mean?
What is Alzheimer's supposed to look like? And it doesn't look like anything, right? It looks like
you. It looks like me.
Like,
it looks like everyone on this call. It looks like everyone you know. I mean, obviously, if it's late stage and folks are in their 80s, I mean, that's a different situation. But for if anyone on the call here is having issues or symptoms and all that kind of stuff, I mean, get the help, get the support, call the 800, call the Alzheimer's Association, and I'm happy to support you as well and get you connected and let you know some of my secrets and all my delicious food that I'm eating that's helping my brain and all that other stuff, and the importance of exercise and meditation and all of that. It all goes together. Brain body connection, right? Isn't that some phrase?
yeah.
Pam, thanks so much for sharing all of that with everybody. I think it was really helpful for everyone to hear your perspective. And we just appreciate your time and you being a part of our team.
Thank you. I miss you guys. I can't wait for the office to open.
I know. We hope we'll see you soon.
Let's get rid of COVID. Knock out COVID.
And for everyone on the Facebook Live today, I just wanted to share with you, as Pam said, our 24/7 helpline, 800-272-3900. That's your best way to get started getting connected with the Alzheimer's Association. And if you're living with MCI or with early stage Alzheimer's disease or another early stage dementia, we have programs just for you as well. Pam mentioned support groups. She talked about getting involved in fundraising activities. We also have education for you and your care partners, family and friends. We have social programs just for folks living with dementia and their care partners and support systems. So please do get in touch with us and get started on becoming connected. With that, I'm going to kick it back to Claire Day.
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. And thank you, Pam. I echo Vanessa. We're so glad to have you on our team. And, I think what's really important about this report, it's not just a report that we want to sit on the shelf. We also know that we can do things to improve awareness and diagnosis and treatment of mild cognitive impairment. There are some recommendations that came out of this report in the Alzheimer's Association, sort of proposing 4 broad strategies that look at providing and promoting greater public awareness by leveraging awareness campaigns and community-based disease education programs. Improve the ease and use and uptick of cognitive assessments in the primary care setting. So making sure that our primary care physicians have a good validated screening tool that they're using, making sure that they understand how to use that and include mild cognitive impairment due to Alzheimer's in that screening. And then think about patient participation in those clinical trials and research. I'm so glad we got to talk about those things. And the Alzheimer's Association is supporting some of those. We've got some ad council educational and awareness programs. We're using a campaign that's been funded in different states and different county levels that really shows and helps people understand how Alzheimer's can present, that can look it can be sometimes really hard to detect, right? But we know that early detection is really important. And then looking at things like how we're providing support to primary care physicians through our Project ECHO program and other physician outreach tools. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about Trial Match. Is the easiest and quickest way to find access to one of those clinical trials. You can find that at alz.org/trialmatch. So I just want to end by thanking again Pam and Vanessa, thanking all of you for tuning in. We always love being with you once a month on Facebook Live. Of course, a shout out to our colleague Michelle Johnston, who works behind the scenes to ensure that all the links are there and make sure that we look perfect on Facebook Live, as I'm sure we do. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon. It's springtime. Get outside, do that heart health connection that Pam talked about, and get outside, and we'll be with all of you next month. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.